Greetings, Captains. I am Wizard, and welcome to another Starfield Outpost build guide. What you see on screen is a fully functioning, fully automated Vytinium Fuel Rod Manufacturing outpost. The purpose of this build is strictly to make credits. Now, if you choose to do so, you can expand the storages at each of the individual locations where we will be extracting our materials for these, and then you can collect the materials yourself and craft the Vytinium fuel rods at an industrial workbench. So this build is perfect for those of you who may be like me, who prefer to gain your XP in the game while also completing the challenges required to unlock the next level of your skills. In the beginning of this guide, I'm going to show you guys how to set up the cargo links, whether they are local or inter-system. I'm also going to show you guys each and every exact location that I went to on planets where it's necessary to do so. Some of them you can place your outpost anywhere on the planet and get what you need for this. But in every case where the location is a little more specific, such as this one on Feynman, VII-b, I'm going to show you exactly where I went and exactly how many extractors you need, builders, cargo links, etc. This is a complete guide. There's a lot to go over, so let's get into it. If you've just found my channel, welcome. If you're looking for some suggestions for some beautiful outpost locations, or maybe some inspiration for a home base build, or even a good way to make credits and XP, and even a way to expand upon this to create passive income, check out my outpost guide playlist. And of course, if you're looking for ships, I have nearly a full fleet of builds completed at this point, starting at level 14 and going all the way to level 60 and above. I've got ships in the A class, B class, C class, I've got cargo ships, fighters, you name it, you are sure to find something in my Starship archive that you like. And of course, I have my FPS combat progression series. Check out the Becoming a God playlist, which currently only has one episode, but episode 2 will be coming very soon. Take a screenshot of this for yourself as you build this outpost, but the minimum requirements for the build are level 26, you'll need Outpost Management 4, Botany 1, Scanning 4, Outpost Engineering 3, Planetary Habitation 1, and I really recommend you also have Commerce 4, Outpost Engineering 4, and Payloads 4. Now, as far as the order of operations for these outposts, I'm going to go through each one step by step, but this chart shows you how each material flows, where it goes, and where you are getting helium from and sending it to. Now, on top of this, I've also provided you with a list of exactly how many extractors you'll need at each planetary location, as well as the material requirements for each of these extractors and the major modules you'll have to place at each location. Get a bunch of these materials, you'll need them. The first location we need to go to get this operation started is in the Narian system. We need to go to a planet called Cruth, which is on the outskirts of the system. You'll find it as the last planet. So here's Cruth. When you go here, you need to find a location that at least has copper, gold, and antimony. So what you want to do is look for a spot where these materials come together. And this is where Scanning 4 comes in very handy, because you wouldn't be able to see the antimony or the gold depending on your level of scanning skill. So that is the spot that I went to. And this location is actually the second attempt that I made at finding a suitable spot. The one where I was set up before did not give me enough room for my gold or my antimony extractors, so I had to move the outpost. If you didn't know, the best way to figure out where to plant your beacon once you're on the planet is to pull the beacon out and let it show you how many materials you have available. So when you find a spot you think is suitable, go ahead and place your beacon. And then the first thing that you want to do is land and get out your extractors, and that will highlight the available vein size at this location. You can see here that I have a good portion of this outpost zone cut off. That is due to being too close to a point of interest or a landing site. So here's my antimony vein, and you can see a little bit more up there on the edge of the zone. So this would be sufficient for the amount of extractors that we need for antimony. So now you can see that even though it's telling me there's gold available, I see no gold vein available in my zone. So I know I need to shift my beacon a bit. So I'm going to come down here and remove the outpost. Now I'm just going to right away pull my beacon back out and move around a little bit to find which direction I need to move in to get that gold vein. And there you can see it popped up. And I found this little, it's almost like a bullseye right here. Just to the right of the beacon, right here. Let's put it right there. Now I can go ahead and check my available material veins. I still have all the antimony I need. There's the gold over here, and this will be sufficient for the amount of extractors that we need. Copper, we already know we're good, but I just happen to get the edge of the zone right up on the edge of the copper vein. To show you exactly where I'm at from where I landed, I am basically exactly 460 meters straight south of the landing site. And I was in a ship that was not small enough to fit on a small landing site. So as long as you're in a ship that's over 40 meters long, you should land in the same spot. Now we need to start building. So I'm going to start with my antimony extraction. And mainly because you can see how large the zone is for the extractor, I wanted to ensure before I built everything else that I in fact do have enough space for the amount of antimony extractors that I need. So I'm going to start with the small zone up here because that's going to be the most limiting. The other zone can fit many more extractors, and we need 9 total here. So that is what I'm aiming for. So I got 4 in the small zone. You can see I'm placing this one such that it kind of encompasses all those rocks, so we don't have any issues with intersecting objects, placing the ones around it. And these went in just fine. And just try to move them as close as they can be to each other. And we already have 8, so we know we can definitely get 9 total. So this is going to be my final spot for sure. This area that I chose is also cool because it has that existing structure that you see right next to my extractors. It has left that there, so I just like that little detail. Not that we're going to be spending much time here, but there is our antimony extraction. And now I'm going to put down my gold extractors. And of course, make sure you have the industrial version chosen. Switching between basic or commercial or industrial does not change the size of the zone of extractor. It only changes the extraction rate of the extractor. So if you can fit, for example, 10 basic extractors in an area, then you can fit 10 industrial extractors in one area as well. Now we're finding out that we have enough for our gold. We needed 7. And potentially in the future, if we wanted to expand it, we may even be able to get a few extra in there. And now the copper is the only resource in this outpost network that you can use the basic extractor on. And we just need 5 of them. And it's because the extraction rate for copper is much higher than the other materials that we need for this. So those 5 extractors keep up with demand just fine. Now, the landing pad with shipbuilder is optional. It's just, I like to be able to land right at my outpost, no matter how often or how little I go there. So I place that first and then put down a hab in case I am suffering from too many environmental afflictions, pardon me, while I'm building. And that just keeps my character safe. So now we need power. You can see down at the bottom we need 350 here. So I went with 5 normal reactors to get to 150. And 2 advanced reactors as they make 100 power each, and that gets me to an even 350. Now a transfer container, which again, this isn't something that's required at this location at least. You're not going to need to come here and pull the materials out unless you are manually crafting your fuel rods at an industrial workbench, in which case you will want that transfer container. Now you may have noticed I also quickly threw down a basic fluorine extractor, and we don't need that for the Vytinium fuel rods, but it is a useful resource to have available for things like weapon modifications and spacesuits and such. So once you have 3 local cargo links placed, you need to now create banks of storages for each of the materials that each pad will be sending to the next location. What I like to do here is just build enough storage that you have basically double what the cargo link can carry in one trip. So that's 2 large containers, and when you connect your first extractor, you want to go ahead and complete your string of cargo all the way to the end point. I've found that this is a more reliable way of avoiding any bugs associated with extraction. So once you have your cargo string completed to the end point, which in this case is the output box of the cargo link, you can go ahead and connect each of your other extractors to the first cargo unit, and that pad is ready to go. So we're going to do the same for the other 2, for our antimony and our gold extractors. Place 2 storages of the appropriate type and connect the string all the way to the end point. Then connect the rest of your extractors. And I have 4 up here too. So here is our antimony pad done and ready with all 9 extractors connected. And now we can do the gold. And I'm putting the storages on this side because that is the side that the output box is on for every pad, whether it's local or intersystem. And at the other side of this cargo link, I will have my storages on the left side, corresponding with the incoming cargo box. That's just an easy way for me to visually have an indication of what a pad is doing. When you first build a landing pad with Ship Builder, make sure you do not spawn your ship at it. Fast travel back to your ship and leave the planet, otherwise the next time you come back, your ship may not land on that landing pad. The materials from Cruth will be sent to Kreet, which is a moon of Ansalon, and it is also in the Narian system. I'm not going to show you my specific location, as all you need to find here is silver. Normally, the air here is plenty hospitable, but you can see there's a sandstorm right now. So I'm just going to build a hab really quick for environmental protection. That way I can just run inside of here and not worry about gaining an affliction while we are setting this stuff up. So now that that's complete, I also like to just change these walls to a window, so when my character's in here, at least I have something to look out at. Totally optional. Now, here are the 6 required industrial silver extractors that you will need to place. And the other important thing here is the fabricators. We need 2 simple fabricators that each produce 0 wire. And we're going to need 3 compound fabricators that produce semi-metal wafers. So I've placed them across from each other in sort of like a street kind of a setup. You'll see why as I build my input and output storages. So here I'm placing 2 boxes, one for the copper that the zero wire needs, and one for the silver that the zero wire needs to be produced. And this is my output box that stores the zero wire before it moves across that street to the compound fabricators. This input storage is for gold, and the other one is for antimony. And of course I need one input for the zero wire. Now I can place a large warehouse that will store the outgoing semi-metal wafers when they are completed manufacturing. And then those will move on to an intersystem cargo link to be sent to the final location for the Vytinium fuel rods. So now we have this set up, we need to start bringing the necessary materials in. First one we need is copper for our zero wire, and let's set this up in the same manner as we did the outgoing pads on Cruth. So I have 2 large solid storages, and this is an incoming pad, of course. So starting at the incoming box, connect the 2 storages that you just built. And you want to take that storage to the one of the input boxes in front of the simple fabricators for the zero wire. The other input box needs silver, of course, but once you have those there, you want to connect each input box to each builder. And then, of course, each builder needs to be connected to the large warehouse output storage. Now I just realized that my cargo line was intersecting directly with that lead storage, which is of course not necessary for this. I just have it for building. So now we have our pads set up, and we need to make the connection between the pads to start bringing that copper in. So we are going to head back to Cruth, because I have found in my experience that it seems to be more reliable to connect the cargo links from the source pad and not from the destination pad. So first of all, let's run over to our copper cargo link, and first thing I see is that it looks like we haven't produced any copper. So let's check the outgoing cargo link container, and sure enough, we've made a bunch of copper. And one thing I forgot to do when we were here the first time is put down our robots. All we're doing is extracting inorganic resources here, so we need 6 sanitation mini-bots. And these are absolutely necessary for properly balancing extraction rates with demand. In this case, they're mainly to bolster the gold and antimony. So go to your cargo link screen and create a link between the Kreet Outpost link that we built there. And first thing you want to do is just ensure that the ship is coming in. And again, this is to make sure that you don't experience any bugs with your cargo links, even though they still happen sometimes. I'm going to show you that at the end. But run straight over to your ship and take off and leave the planet. In this case, I still have the slab on the pad, and as we know, that is a useless ship in combat, so we're going to switch to this one. And just so you guys know, this is a quick sneak peek. There will be a few more, but this is going to be my next ship build. It's called the Vulcan. And of course, when you're switching ships, don't forget to double check your crew assignments. I know that not all of my ships have the same amount of crew space, so definitely check this when you're switching to make sure you have the most important crew that you need. And I am good now.
Let's see what the stars have in store for us this time.
Your hunt ends.
No one is a match for the Vulcan. Now let's head back to our Kreet Outpost and set up our next pad. Sometimes the robots spawn on top of you. So taking a look around, we can see we're still not producing anything here. So we know the first thing that we need to do is get silver coming into our zero wire fabricators. And we still don't have copper coming in yet. We want to make sure that ship comes in and lands, and what do you know? Here it is. So we know that's working. Let's get our silver connected. And our simple fabs will have everything they need to get started. So connecting the silver to the other input storage, and then that storage to each builder again. The builders are already connected to the output box, so we are good to go there. Now we need to connect our output box to our input box in this case, because those zero wire need to go straight to these builders. So connect that and all three of the fabricators to that storage box, and then connect all three fabricators again to the respecting output box. So now we need to get gold and antimony flowing. And that's what these two storages here are for, as we need both of those resources to start producing the semi-metal wafers. So I'm going to put down one local cargo link here, and the two storages that we need to store the incoming material. Just going to stack them up here and here. And just like last time, starting with the incoming pad cargo box, we want to go through our storages and to our first input box for our semi-metal wafers, and immediately connect that to each of the builders. Make sure you don't forget. This will all become second nature once you've done it a few times, and hopefully by the end of setting up this Kreet Outpost, you will readily understand how these systems are supposed to work. There are still bugs, of course. So let's go back to Cruth. Once you get here, we're doing the same thing as we did with the copper pad, but this time we are going to connect the gold to our new cargo link on Kreet. You'll see we have one available because the other one has already been connected, so it's not going to show you that as an option. And you saw the flashing yellow lights around the edge of the pad. That indicates that the ship is incoming or outgoing. Green indicates the ship is off of the world that you are on, and red indicates that your pad is not connected at all. So now with the gold connected, we can go straight to Kreet, remembering not to fast travel from the surface of the planet. And arriving back, we can already see that our zero wire is being produced pretty quickly. So while we wait for our first gold delivery to arrive, we can go ahead and build our cargo link that will supply the antimony from Cruth. And for the sake of organization, doing it the same way as the previous pads, two large storages on the same side as the incoming cargo link box. Connect our links starting with the cargo link incoming box through each of the large storages and then on to the compound fabricator's last input storage box. And from there, of course, to each of the fabricators. So now all of our necessary connections are made to our compound fabricators. The only thing we have left to do for that is to just connect the cargo links. And before we go and do that, we are also going to build our first inter-system cargo link, which will serve as the delivery of semi-metal wafers from Kreet to Feynman VII-b. Now, because The local and intersystem links are distinguished within the cargo link screens. You can safely place one local and one intersystem and be able to tell which one is which when you go to make the connections. One of the great things about Kreet is that you extract helium-3 straight from the atmosphere, so that's why your location only needs to have silver. And if you notice here, you'll see that I have outputs going from 2 different boxes. That's because I want the helium-3 supply for the operation of the links to be prioritized over the outgoing helium to make sure these 2 pads keep running. So that's why I have the helium output for the other outpost location being extracted from the stack of cargoes, one cargo box earlier than the actual helium-3 supply for each of the pads. Now that new pad we just placed is of course going to be for the outgoing semi-metal wafers, so we want to have our stack of large warehouses underneath of the outgoing cargo link box. And same thing as we've done before, you want to start with where your material is coming from and connect each of the cargoes all the way to the outgoing box, and that is complete. So when we are ready, when we get to our final location, that is the pad that we will connect to one of the intersystem cargo links at Feynman VII-b. Now here's something that I like to do on each of the outgoing resource cargo links. You want to connect your incoming box back to the beginning of your outgoing storages. This is because if the ship returns with anything in its cargo that it wasn't able to transfer, it will want to put it back in the incoming box. You need somewhere for that to go. That seems to be another method of preventing cargo link bugs. And I'm also going to go back and do that at Cruth right now because I forgot to do it before. So let's jump back to Cruth, remembering not to fast travel from the surface. And we're going to go over to our antimony cargo link and connect it to Kreet to get our semi-metal wafers producing. And once we've done that, I'm also going to connect each of the incoming boxes on these pads to the start of their storages. And you can see here there's a cargo link and an intersystem. We are connecting the local cargo link with this pad because we know that the intersystem cargo link is going to be used to send these semi-metal wafers from Kreet. So now all 3 of our cargo links here at Cruth are connected to Kreet and sending the materials. And before I forget, I want to connect each of the incoming boxes to the start of their respective storage stacks. Again, so that if that ship comes back with anything in its cargo, it has somewhere to try to put it. And that's done just like that. Now let's visit Kreet again to make sure our latest cargo link is working. And we can also check to see the status of our first part of our production network. Don't have any antimony yet, but that ship should be coming in right now. The other thing I have not mentioned about the Kreet Outpost yet is that you need to place 6 of the engineering robots. You can see them roaming around on screen now. It appears as though we have plenty of antimony, and that means our semi-metal wafers can start being produced. So now I've shown you how to set up and get cargo links properly functioning. I've only shown you the connection of local cargo links at this point, but the intersystem ones function the same with the addition of requiring helium-3 for operation. So make sure you're sending the helium to the correct locations as we move through the guide. And from here on out, we are basically going to be touring the rest of the locations because I didn't want to bloat the length of this video going over the setup of each and every outpost in the same way. So let's take off from here and move on to our next location. Next, we need to go to Codos, which is a moon of Aquila in the Cheyenne system. You are probably familiar with Aquila, so find Codos in orbit. And there are some very valuable resources that you can extract from here, but we don't need anything from this planet that comes from the ground. So once you get here, if you want to extract any of these, go ahead and place your outpost wherever you wish. The things that we need to extract are available at any point on the planet that you can put an outpost down on. So go ahead and find whatever spot you want. I chose to go for something picturesque near the ocean, and there are some mountains in the background, and it really is a beautiful spot, but that's the only reason I chose my location. So the first thing you need to do when you land is fully scan the Wanderer's Husk plant. This is what will be grown in the greenhouses when you place them in your outpost. And of course, to grow plants, you're going to need water, but that is extractable from the atmosphere here. So once you place your greenhouses, you can go in and find miniaturized versions of the Wanderer's Husk inside. So once you've got the scan and you've got botany rank 1, you can start growing these. You're going to need 14 of the industrial greenhouses. So I have them laid out in this way, tried to kind of make something that looked interesting, but you know, place them however you can. They're kind of big, and because of their elongated footprint, they're a little more challenging to place if you have slopes. So like I said, you'll need water for these, and you extract that from the atmosphere here. So you need 5 of the industrial water vapor extractors. I have them all being pushed into one central storage and then distributed out to individual liquid storages for each of the banks of the greenhouses. And then of course the greenhouses are outputting into a bank of storages, and believe it or not, solvent is considered a solid, so you'll need solid storages. Connect that to your cargo link and you're good. And then of course you need 6 of the garden mini bots in order to balance the extraction rate of solvent. So that's what you need here. Let's move on.
See what the stars have in store for us this time.
The next location on our list is Rutherford 6A in the Rutherford system, which can be found right here. Say right of center of the star map. So go out to Rutherford 6 and find the moon Rutherford 6A. The primary resource we need to extract here is cesium, and although helium-3 is available, there is not a location that can reach both helium and cesium as far as I could tell. If you want to try to find a spot that has helium and cesium, it'll make your job easier, as you can then just extract the helium on this same planet to power your cargo link. But the main thing is to just find a spot that has plenty of cesium. It'll have to be on one of the 2 poles. And these extractors work pretty quickly. So you only need 4 of the industrial cesium extractors. And pardon the messy storage linking that I have going on here. It's left over from some of the experimentation that I had to do. So then you need to bring in the helium if you can't find it at your cesium location. And that will power your 2 pads. And that's what you need here. So we can again take off and move on to our next spot.
About time we got out of there.
Our next location is very important to this outpost network. It is in the Decaran system. It is another moon called Decaran VII-b. This location is so important because it is the only planetary body in the game where you can extract the Vytinium that we need for the Vytinium Fuel Rods. So here's Decaran VII-b, and this is another one where the scanning skill comes in very important, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to see the Vytinium areas on the planet map. We also need to extract helium-3 from this planet, as it will supply itself with the helium that it needs for its intersystem cargo links, as well as 2 other planets where we cannot get the helium that we need. So it needs to have enough to supply several intersystem cargo links. So find a spot where Vytinium and helium get really close together, as I believe this planet is all craters. So you're looking for something kind of like this. Any of these spots will work, and you'll just have to find a little area that has a pretty big Vytinium vein, as well as just enough room in the helium for 3 extractors, as they work very quickly. So once you've chosen a spot, go ahead and land and find a good location. This is where my outpost is at specifically, if you want to try to find one there as well. So very similar to other locations, this one just has an overly complex helium storage and distribution system. You don't have to follow anything like this, just know that you need 2 pads to send to 2 other locations where you can't get helium, and of course you need a 3rd pad to send the Vytinium off to the final location. You need 8 industrial Vytinium extractors, you can see them up there, and a minimum of 3 of the industrial helium extractors. Then also, this outpost and Rutherford as well, these both need sanitation mini-bots. So don't forget about those guys, or this production rate will not be balanced with the demand. So that's what we need here. We can move right along.
We're clear for takeoff, Captain.
From Decaran, we need to find a system called Katydid, which is all the way down here. It's the lowest system on the star map, fairly far to the right as well. The planet we're looking for is called Katydid III, and this is the only place where you can find the andesite that we need to make the andesite wafers that are needed to make the Vytinium fuel rods. Now, this planet does have some different biomes, and no helium available, so you will have to get this from one of your other locations. I have it being sent here from Decaran, but mainly you just need a spot with andesite. It's the only thing you need to extract here. Anything else is a bonus, and if you want to extract more, go for it. I landed at this spot right here, but as long as you're getting andesite, it doesn't matter. Again, that's all you're looking for. And once you've planted your beacon, you'll need to find a space that can accommodate 7 of the industrial andesite extractors. They have a fairly big radius, so you can't squeeze them in too tight. Pretty similar to antimony, if I remember correctly. And you'll just need 1 landing pad, bringing in helium from Decaran, and another landing pad for sending the andesite out to our last location. You're also going to need 6 of these sanitation mini bots here to make sure that your extraction rate is balanced. So this one's pretty straightforward, and we can move on to our last location. And now it is time to move on to our final location, which is where the Vytinium fuel rods are being produced. You're looking for a system called Feynman, which is pretty far south and fairly central on the star map. And you're looking for a planet, or a moon rather, called Feynman VII-b. This location is crucial to this outpost network because it has plutonium, uranium, and helium. The helium allows us to eliminate the need for another cargo link at this location, and we need the plutonium and the uranium for our 2 resources that are crafted prior to the Vytinium fuel rods. So here I'm going to show you exactly where I landed, which is this spot where you have a little finger of helium reaching out to the uranium zone and fairly close to the plutonium. Now, it doesn't appear that we would be anywhere near close enough to get the plutonium, but I was able to find enough here. The veins were pretty small, though. So there you can see those 2 crash sites and this spot right here. Now, the plutonium became my main limitation in balancing extraction rates. Because I was only able to find a small vein of plutonium along with the helium that I needed, that was, again, the main limitation of this setup. So here you can see the final version, fully balanced, of how I have set up all these builders. And I know that all of the connection lines are very distracting. I'll try to explain it. And here, as I'm checking my multiplex fabricators that are making andesite wafers, I see that my andesite cargo link is bugged. So before I fully explain this, we're going to go and fix that. But basically, we have 8 andesite fabricators, 4 nuclear fuel rod fabricators, which are both feeding into the 7 fabricators that are making the Vytinium fuel rods. So these are being produced and input into that bank of 4 warehouses that you see over there. And the nuclear fuel rods are being produced and sent into its own bank of 4 cargoes there. Those are then being sent to the input crates in front of the Vytinium fuel rod fabricators. There are 7 of those, and they are lined up right here. The large banks of storages are where all of the final Vytinium fuel rods are being stored. Here's our 3 helium-3 extractors. That is all we need to power all 6 of the pads here. And here are the 3 plutonium extractors, and this was all I was able to fit in this area. So if you can find a location with a larger plutonium vein, then you can potentially scale up your whole operation slightly. But I know for a fact that you can't go over 9 of the Vytinium fuel rod fabricators. And there you also saw the 4 uranium extractors that I have. All of them are industrial grade. Now, I mentioned the 6 pads, but you only require 5 for this. This 6th pad is for something else that I'm going to show you towards the end, but to make this function, you only need 5 intersystem cargo links. They are simply for providing all of the necessary resources for the fuel rods to be manufactured. So this was a quick first look. And since I know for a fact that this pad is bugged, now we're going to fix that. I'm going to show you what to do. First things first, though, we still have a disconnected semi-metal wafer supply. So let's go over here to this pad and reestablish that connection to Kreet that is waiting for us. And that is done. We're going to make sure that ship is coming in. We see the flashing yellow lights. And now we need to head back to Katydid to repair our cargo link. When you have a bugged pad, you're going to notice that as soon as you spawn into your outpost location, that cargo ship for that link will take off. It will, I should say, initiate the takeoff sequence as soon as you spawn in. If we were to leave here and come back again, the ship would do exactly the same thing. We already know it's bugged because we didn't see the ship arrive at all when we were taking our first look at the outpost. So we already knew, but this is just further confirmation. The best thing that you should do is wait for these lights to turn green. And when they do, you go to your screen and go ahead and disconnect that link. This is the one that's sending the Indicite out. So disconnect that. And then you can leave your screen. Next thing you want to do is delete the pad. And as soon as you've done that, you don't need to delete anything else. We still have everything here. It's still functioning. But now what you want to do is you want to save your game and restart it. Now once you've loaded back in, go ahead and rebuild your cargo link exactly where it was before. And all you need to do is reconnect your incoming helium supply. Reconnect your outgoing Indicite, in this case is the material. And then you want to make sure, since this is a source pad sending a material out, once you've connected the outgoing resource, you want to connect the incoming cargo link box back to the beginning of your resources storage bank. In this case, mine is this one here, where all of the extractors are feeding into. And once you have everything connected, go back to your screen and re-establish your cargo link. And we see that the ship is coming in. There it is. I'm going to sprint back over to the Vulcan and take off and head back to Feynman, where we can confirm or deny the proper operation of our Indicite cargo link. For some reason, this one has been the most finicky for me and gets bugged out more than any of the others. No idea why, but I have experienced this throughout my trials and errors with this setup. So let's go back here and see if we were successful. Now that we are back on Feynman VII-b, we can head over to our Indicite pad. And notice I didn't rebuild the incoming pad here. I have found that you don't need to do that. It seems to be that deleting and rebuilding the source pad is sufficient to fix any errors in these cargo links. I have done it this way for a couple of the others, though not nearly as many times as I have for the Indicite, again, for whatever reason. There we can see our solvent is being delivered again, so that pad is functioning perfectly. And any minute now, we should see a new shipment of Indicite come in. Right on time. So here comes the first one. Now, if you really want to confirm whether or not a pad is working, it's useful to stay at the same location until this shipment takes back off and arrives again, because I have experienced where it will work the first time, but then it will fail to return a second time. So while we're waiting for the next shipment of andesite to come in, of course, you can go into build mode and hover over your builders to see how many materials they have available to them. So let's see. And yes, that was a full cargo link worth of andesite. So we know this is working. So now I can go back over this whole setup with you guys. Again, we have 8 andesite wafer fabricators with 4 nuclear fuel rod fabricators and 7 for the Vytinium fuel rods. And there you can see another shipment of solvent coming in, but I'm going to go over this whole setup with you guys. From Kreet, we are receiving semi-metal wafers, cesium from Rutherford. We're getting our solvent from Codos. Our andesite is coming from Katydid, and our Vytinium is coming from Decaran. Again, this 6th pad is for something else that I'll show you momentarily. But these are our pads again. So these pads are bringing in all the materials that we are extracting, or in the case of semi-metal wafers, building in another location. All of these materials are being fed into the inputs for their respective builders. Again, this location, 3 industrial plutonium extractors is all I could fit. And all we need to balance out with that is 4 uranium extractors, again of the industrial variety. So these are all the materials that we need to build the Vytinium fuel rods, and of course we need our 3 industrial helium extractors to power the various intersystem cargo links here. But helium is not being sent anywhere else. So our builders are over here again. This setup is, I know, very visually confusing, but you can see where I have my input banks of storages feeding into all the builders. One side here is the andesite wafer fabricators, and opposite of that are the nuclear fuel rod fabricators. There's all the materials that they need to function. And over here, you can see all these materials that these ones need to function. And of course, each bank of these builders manufacture a resource that the Vytinium fuel rod fabricators need to produce the Vytinium fuel rods. So there's everything that they require listed up there. And once you have all this connected right, in order to make proper use of this, you need to have a very large bank of storages so that you can build up the Vytinium fuel rods over time, and when they are full, you can come and empty them and sell them all. So here I have 587 large warehouses all linked together in order to store my manufactured Vytinium fuel rods for later. I can pull those materials all out from this transfer container, but I don't need to come back to Feynman VII-b to see if this is full. I have this 6th cargo link up in the corner that I've mentioned a couple of times is set up to start pulling Vytinium fuel rods out of the massive bank of storages when it is full. So that way, anytime I visit my home base, when I see that my warehouse storages are starting to fill up, that's my indicator that I am indeed ready to empty all of these 587 storages and go and sell roughly 2 million credits worth of Vytinium fuel rods. So in just a moment, I'm going to show you guys how to set up that pad if you choose to do so. But be warned, if you connect an outgoing shipment of Vytinium fuel rods to the end of your bank of hundreds of storages, it will cause your game to have very heavy lag spikes every roughly 3 minutes when that ship takes the fuel rods out of the storages. So, before you try doing that, let me save you some time. What you want to do with this 6th pad, of course, first you need to power it with helium that we are conveniently extracting from this location. And before I reconnect this, I am going to delete the old connection that I had here. But what you want to do is connect your storages of the Vytinium fuel rods to this 6th pad on the outgoing side. Now, in order to make this work as an indicator that this outpost storages are full, you want to connect that pad with the 2nd storage in your series of Vytinium fuel rod storages. All of my builders are being fed into the box that was just to the left of the one that I had highlighted. So you want to go to the 2nd box in your series, connect from there to your outgoing box on your cargo link that is not being used, as the other ones are bringing materials in, and you just saw the Indosite ship take off, so now we have confirmation that that is functioning correctly. So back to the point of this little bit of my guide. If you want an indicator for when these storages are full, build yourself that 6th pad and connect it to the 2nd storage in your storage bank of Vytinium fuel rods. Now I'm going to take off and head to Indigo Ridge, which is my home base, and show you kind of how that works.
This is a three-star guard ship. What are you thinking? There's no getting out of this one. Eliminate that target. You can't win this fight. Trap drop down. We can't jump. Oh, damn. That was the grab drive.
With that mess cleaned up, I can head to my home base, as I mentioned. And if you didn't see my Indigo Ridge build, you can find a link in the description or potentially on screen. Please check that out. It's pretty cool, I think. So go ahead and head to your home base if you are wanting the optional storage full indicator in a more convenient location. So I have here 2 pads set up. They're both intersystem. One of them is bringing helium in, and it's actually bringing helium from my Anderfon outpost, which was the reason for needing helium in my first outpost guide video. But you can see here I also have a pretty substantial bank of storage crates, and those are there for the Vytinium fuel rods. When these are full and everything on Feynman VII-b is full, I can make right around 2.5 million credits, because that just fills up the slab full of Vytinium fuel rods. So quickly, I'm just reconnecting my helium input from Anderfon, and then I'm going to run over to my 2nd pad, which is already built, and reconnect it to Feynman VII-b. So we're not going to actually see any of the function of this in the video, but the way this will work is my cargo warehouses will remain empty until my warehouses on Feynman VII-b are full. Only then will I start to see my warehouses fill up. So that is a clear and convenient indicator anytime I visit this location, which I do frequently, being my home base, that I am ready to make some credits. A lot of credits. As long as I, have the ship that can carry all of that bulk of Vytinium fuel rods. There's our ship coming in. And again, if you want to verify that that pad is functioning correctly, you can head back to Feynman and hang around for a while and make sure that that ship continues to attempt to collect Vytinium fuel rods. But here, those storages behind the transfer container are the last ones that will start to fill up. So when I start seeing green there, I know I am on the verge of making another 2.5 million credits.
And with that, our next adventure starts.
Now eventually, while you're out playing the game, making credits of your own, looting and shooting, you will come back to Feynman VII-b and find that your gigantic mass of warehouses is all green. Now you can start the arduous task of emptying all of these storages. And because of the number of storages involved in this bank, at least on my system, I experienced significant lag each time I pulled materials out of the transfer container. Now here, I am going to switch to the slab, which, with full payload skill and with a crew member that has payloads, this ship totals at a capacity of 213,000 mass. So, this is really what enables me to be able to sell all of the Vytinium fuel rods conveniently, because since I don't have to be over encumbered, I can run around to individual vendors, and it just becomes much easier to do. So you can do this without a ship such as the slab. You know, you'll just have to deal with the on-screen effects of being intensely over encumbered. You know, this is 200,000 mass worth of Vytinium fuel rods. So go ahead and empty them all out, and eventually you'll have the slab filled up. Now, I only got up to 198,000 mass worth, but once you have everything emptied out, again, switch to a ship that can handle itself in combat, because for me, the slab cannot. Double check your crew assignments, and now you are ready to travel to your destination of choice for selling any goods. My personal favorite location for selling is the Key, as you have several vendors clustered very close together. Very easy to sell a lot of things at once. So we're going to run in here, and we're going to go to the two vendors that have the highest available credits, and across the settled systems is the same. You have Trade Authority and weapons vendors. Each have a higher amount of available credits than the other vendor types. So I'm going to go straight over here to Zuri's first.
I hope you came with credits.
And let's see how much. 198,000 weight worth of Vytinium fuel rods. 2.4 million credits. So now I'm just going to sell some to her and clean out her available credits. Now, just a disclaimer, this was pre-patched, but I have a mod installed for vendor credits.
Always a pleasure.
Now we can run over to Radley at the Keys Trade Authority.
Trade Authority takes anything and everything.
And eventually, you will have your entire stock of Vytinium fuel rods sold, and you will be millions of credits richer.
From what I understand, you're a bit of a hero around these parts. Congratulations.
Well, thanks, Radley. And those are kind words to end on and segue into what I would like to say, which is thank you to all of you for all of your support, and congratulations if you made it to the end of this video. Again, I intended this build as a way to build credits passively while you are out actively playing the game and looting and making credits other ways. So again, thank you all so much for your support. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you couldn't tell, I have upgraded my audio equipment, so hopefully the quality of my voice has helped make this viewing experience more pleasant than my previous content. I hope to see you in the next one, which, if you haven't guessed, is the Vulcan, which we can look at briefly, the scale of this ship out the window here. And with all that said, I will see everyone in the next video. Thank you again.
Are you looking to start something? 'Cause I'll finish it. The fleet is